Buckle up, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I was.
City manager. Snyder.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, I'll get you.
I'm sorry, we're back to the hybrid style where council meets in person and public forum strictly virtual.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
We're sorry, we're just making it up, but the link joined in on our. I'm gonna step down just to.
Councilman Reed, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, ready? So we have those that need to be here. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. We could all stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We look like do the roll call, please.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Reed. Yes. Jackson,
Here.
Waller, Lanu,
Here.
Williamson, and Mayor Snyder.
Here. We'll start our meeting with a moment of silence to acknowledge Harry Longden, who recently passed away. Harry was our previous Deputy Director of Public Services, and he worked with the city of Albion for 31 years. Alright. Do I have a motion to approve of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Do you have any adjustments that you need to it? Any questions?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed. Yes. Jackson,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay, so we do not have any presentations or recognitions, no public hearing. Do you have anybody on for public comment, specifically to an agenda item?
I have no raised hands.
Okay. No need for a closed session. In your packets, you have the information for the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve?
Support.
Any comments, corrections? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Jackson,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading of the adoption to ordinance 2022-01, to amend chapter 58, article 2? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. City Attorney.
Sure. So this is a simple amendment to our trespass ordinance. Currently, the default penalty for the city is any misdemeanor violation of the city code is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 90 days and $500 in fines. The state modified the penalty for a trespass offense such that it's punishable by up to 30 days and up to a fine of $250. And so the primary modification here is bringing those penalties into compliance with state law. I've also made our ordinance a little less verbose and basically had our language mirror the state law language. So it's more concise and it brings us into compliance in terms of the penalty. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for our attorney? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve our 5-year community recreation plan?
So moved.
Second.
And is there anybody who wants to speak on this?
I'll share a little bit. Thank you, Mayor. So the Parks and Recreation Commission, Advisory Commission, along with Valuation Associates, we've been working to update our current 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan. This is just an update. It's not a complete revamp. We just, this advisory committee, we went through and reviewed all of our goals and objective. And the commission felt that these are still the goals that the city would like to accomplish. So with that, we went ahead and removed any projects that have been completed out of the old master plan and then updated and added new projects that follow along with the current goals. So we are recommending approval. This again allows us to apply for any DNR grants through the state of Michigan. So recommended for approval.
Any questions for City Manager Slater? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lanu,
Yes.
Williams, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution 2022-02 to approve the contract with the Michigan Department of Transportation?
So moved.
Second.
And City Manager Slater?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So council, as you can recall, back in August, you all approved the reconfiguration of Michigan Avenue to include parking lanes from Ionia Street to Migo Street. So we have received the contract from MDOT to move forward with that project. In the contract, you'll notice that they do include Superior Street. That is, they're just looking to update the street markings starting at Superior Street, but the reconfiguration is still between Ionia Street and Migo Street, where we will have on-street parking along both sides of that roadway. The contract has been reviewed by Attorney Harkness, and then we are recommending approval. I should note the first MDOT will cover the lane markings this year, but moving forward, it will fall on the city to replace those markings every 2 years.
Any questions for City Manager Slater? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the fee schedule amendment for the valuation-based building permit fee schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Director Arnold, you want to speak on this?
Not a whole lot to say. It's just, we are amending our fee schedule now to match up with the service agreement that we just signed last meeting? Was it just last meeting? Last meeting with Safebuilt. So our old fee schedule referenced Cornerstone, which is Safebuilt's old name, and it was also based on kind of an outdated way that no one else in the state really assesses fees. And so now, I mean, you get a permit here, you get a permit in Jackson, you get a permit in Marshall, it's all going to be in the same world. And this is updating our fee schedule to match that. So recommending approval.
So the fee schedule that we have before us, this is for 2022, and if there's any change from the previous year, that's reflected in the link, excuse me,
The last column.
yeah, so that's,
Yes, but all the highlighted ones like that. I should be clear, what we're just talking about to, I guess, my department section of it, that is still showing the highlights from the calendar year change that Deputy Clerk Beck put in there. We're just talking about the ones down under planning, zoning, building for building inspections, property maintenance inspections. A lot of it's textual and just making sure that we are putting on paper not just on the service agreement that we have with them, but with our fee schedule, that we're following the state schedule that they follow.
That starts on page 34 of the meeting packet.
Do we have any questions for Director Arnold?
Yes, I
Councilman,
was just talking to Ian about, down where pavilions are. And the cost is $75, and increased it by 20. And it says cover clean up costs. And I was saying that just like when the new pavilion was put up at Holland Park this year, it was up for about a month, and someone that went out and with a black marker and rolled all down the leg of one. We had to go out, clean that up, and get paint from the company that put it up, sent us paint to redo the lid of it and everything. And I was just asking, we have asked for cameras before, and hopefully those will get placed there so we'll know who did this. But I'm just saying, is it going to be, okay, for instance, if I rent a pavilion, say from 3 o'clock until 9 or 3 until 7 in the afternoon, and then after I'm finished, is anyone going to come to check to see that everything is still in order when I leave, or what? I think something should be done so that, you know, I mean, if you rent the Isman House or some other place, they always come in before you leave to check to see that you have not messed up or defaced or torn up anything that they've had. So I'm just wondering, is something like that, can't that be set up for parks? Because once you get the new park up there, you're gonna have the same park. So.
Yes, our parks crew, after we have events, they do go out and clean up each of the pavilions. Once they're done, they take away trash, remove any extra picnic tables that may have been added to the pavilions. So this increase, Director Miller actually recommended this increase to cover the vandalism and extra cleanup that our crews have had to do when going out and checking on the pavilions.
Okay, so will that be done on the day of, so that you know what's, responsible?
Yes, it should be. They should go out after each day throughout the weekend to make sure that they are cleaned up and ready to go for the next party.
yes, Councilman Robinson.
And just so we don't get into more of these gotcha moments, I mean, this is known pavilion rentals that the city actually knows about. We know that people use these pavilions outside of the normal confines of renting them. There was an incident with the Fifth Sunday service where people went in the night before and they had relocated some event. They didn't actually rent it from the city. And then they left a bunch of garbage, and then people came in to do a worship service underneath the arena in Victory Park, and everyone was really mad at the city, like, why didn't you clean it up? Well, they didn't actually know there was any event there. And so, again, we have to remember that this is going to be for the ones that we know and for people who follow the rules and rent from the city versus those who might just inadvertently use the space and then trash it. Because the city won't know unless someone tells them, because they're not going to look out for it. So I just want to make sure we're giving the city some grace on that, because it's hard. It is hard with the amount of parks that we have and the disparity in people who follow the rules and who don't follow the rules, to keep track of that.
Well, that one you're talking about, I know they pay rental on that. But I'm talking about, okay, I don't know about this other one that I am actually referring to, when you refer to. They call me, so I know they pay. But I'm just trying to make sure that things that are being defaced or things that are being messed up in the parks, the proper people are being taken care of. And if you don't check afterwards, I mean, because I don't think that's been done before, but hopefully it will be done now. And thank you for that, because I think that's needed.
And please encourage your constituents to follow the city's process in renting our pavilions. Encouraging they do need to stop down. They can see Ms. Bonnie in the DPW front office to fill out the park reservation form so that we are aware of any events going on, so that we can make sure that we are checking and cleaning up after each of the events. So please encourage your constituents to follow the process and fill out the proper paperwork to rent our pavilion spaces.
Now, my next question too is on the rental of the parks for events and tournaments. Now, does that include yearly Albion celebrations by like the Albion Juneteenth program or the one that just Roberts had. Are those ones included too in this?
Which page are you on this read?
So it's on page 32.
That is,
Yeah, so that would apply to anybody who is hosting an event in our park space. The fee schedule applies to all residents, elected official, city employees, that you must pay the fee that has been set by council through our fee schedule.
that's never been done before. It isn't new.
Any other questions for City Manager Slater? Or Director Arnold? All right. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Renew,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Discussion on our rental certification subcommittee.
So-
Councilman Williamson, did you,
So we kind of formed a committee, we formed a council committee at the last council meeting to, again, revive the conversation about what rental certification looks like in Albion. And so I thought tonight would be interesting for us to put some thoughts down to that committee on things that they should do in order to bring back a comprehensive rental certification program that meets the needs of the city. And it also is collaborative in nature as much as it can be with our property owners in town. And I want to give everyone the opportunity to share what they think are the most important kind of, who do we need, like, not necessarily, we don't need to say who as far as individuals, but like, who are the types of people we want to be brought to the table by this council committee? And then what are we kind of looking for at the end of this process? Hopefully that committee will kind of define its own working order and then have a timeframe for when they'll be bring back an ordinance for council. And because this is my item, I'll go ahead and go first and say, ideally in my mind, as we move this conversation forward, there are already folks in the community who are starting to light fires again. Whenever someone says rental certification in Albion, there's always someone screaming, you're gonna kick somebody out, or you know, how are you gonna enforce it? Or the other one is that money's gonna leave the town. But I think one of the things we need to do is we need to get some of our really good landlords around the table, people who take care of their properties. And I think we need to get renters, folks who rent separately from their landlords. I think that that's important, that if they're gonna be giving feedback, they shouldn't have to be doing it in front of people who own the property. And we should be listening to all stakeholders in this, including our city department heads and code enforcement officials, to help develop a policy. The last one we had included an inspection policy that was a yearly inspection for property owners. That immediately really incensed a lot of people. We should include there's a realtors association here in Calhoun County who have a beat on what rental certification looks like here. Battle Creek is one of the communities in Calhoun County that actually does have a comprehensive rental certification program. They do, if you pass your, for example, I'm looking for incentives to do well as a landowner. So one of the things they do is that if you pass your inspection as a landlord, you don't have to do it again until the property changes hands or for several years out. So between 4 and 5 years. So there are things that incentivize, like, okay, yep, you're gonna pay the one-time fee to get the inspection, but if you pass and maintain your property, you don't have to do it for so long. Whereas if you fail your inspection multiple times, there's other, you know, yep, we're gonna have to inspect again, it's gonna cost you more money, it's going to push landowners to take care of their property and get them up to code. And this would be a compliment to what code enforcement is already doing. Those were my kind of thoughts on this, and I think one of the things I've heard on council is we need to clean up. We need to make, you know, we have all this great business investment in our community, and then you turn one corner and you see a hole in someone's roof, or you see or you hear of people living in substandard conditions. And I think one of the things we probably need to decide as a community, that just because you can't afford to live in the mansion, doesn't mean you don't deserve decent running water and electricity in the apartment that you pay money for. So I think that those are some of the things we need to recognize as we walk through this process. Again, keeping in mind that we should be incentivizing and pushing landowners in a positive way to make this as nice of a community as possible.
So I guess you guys need to figure out how big of a subcommittee you want to have, you know, as we know, when you have a large group, it just, sometimes it gets hard to manage. I guess when I was envisioning this, after we spoke at the last council meeting, I thought it would be good, like to have 3 owners, 3 renters. Then you have, like you were saying, department heads, code enforcement. So, and then you 3, then you're already getting up to like 15 people at the table. So I wasn't sure what your thoughts were in the vision of this. And I don't know if that's even too large for what, you know, Councilman Lanu or Mayor Pro Tem Jackson will be thinking about.
If I could add, we made it a subcommittee of council or a council committee for a really important reason. And that was that this committee could choose to invite folks to the table to give feedback and to have conversations with them, and would not have to pass through the barrier of an application. So I kind of envisioned like the 3 council members, and I can't, and this will make me look bad, but can't remember if I signed up for this one or not. So I would love to be part of it if I didn't, but one of the things I kind of envisioned was this group saying, okay, tonight we're gonna have 1 or 2 nights of we're gonna meet with landlords, and we're gonna hear feedback about what, you know, what are their most pressing concerns around rental certification, what are some things that they could agree to. I think that's one of the things that was missing during the last process is what are some things that landowners actually agree should happen, and hear that, not just we don't want to pay money. That's, you know, that's not a starter, right? And then you move down the constituent chain and say, okay, we want to talk to people who rent property in Albion. And maybe that's a survey, maybe that's a Google spreadsheet, maybe that's just a couple of knocks on some doors. We know where rental properties are now because of some of the work that we've done over the last years. And then this committee could sit down with department heads and the city manager and say, here are the things that are pressing and that are holding the city back when these properties are not taken care of. And then through that work, they can then develop, you know, make the sausage of the policy and then run it back through those constituency groups. I hope that we're not looking for an overnight solution to rental certification, but I think if we were to, you know, go through all the constituency groups and come back and edit the policy, that this committee could then bring it back to council, and it's in our hands. And we've talked to everyone we possibly can by that point. Again, I don't want to tell the committee how to do its job. I think that those are lessons learned from previous times of doing this work.
That's right, because Councilman Williams, you were gonna
I know.
be on this subcommittee, correct?
As long as it coincided with my work schedule.
Okay, yeah.
I can trade in and out with you.
Yeah. And especially if we set the guidelines where, like you said previously, where that number of people would be in the room, that would be my only concern, is that we have representation from both sides so that the conversation can be had and everybody's represented.
So remind me, we had Councilman Williams, Councilman Lanu,
And then if it was Councilman
Councilman
Green.
Reed.
But it sounds like, I mean, you mentioned Mayor Pro Tem Jackson, you sounded interested. I think all of us are maybe willing to assist, and but also recognizing having limited capacity. I'm really glad you brought this to the table, because I think, I know I have my own like thought process of how this could move forward. Sounds like the mayor has her own, you have your own. And so I think being able to walk away from here knowing this is actually how we're going to move forward.
Mhm.
What I was hearing from residents, and what I heard a lot before with the, 2+ year process that the former subcommittee had, was just like completely no. So I think that in order to put in this work, it needs to be clear what the incentive is for the city. I know there's the health and safety of all of our residents. And then I know that having a registration of all rental properties is really important. And so with the thought of so many people coming and saying, we don't need this, I'm curious what we actually need in order to accomplish those goals that the city has. And looking at that, because I think hearing your process, Councilman Williamson, that's great, but I think we have to kind of have the same motive to be able to dedicate the time to meet and speak to all these people, because I think, from everything I've heard, people feel like we need to be doing a better job with code enforcement, and that doesn't require a rental certification. And so just being able to address those discrepancies, demonstrating that we actually are hearing the residents' concerns up front, for me, gives me more motivation to participate, and I think that would also help be able to navigate these initial first steps. My first thought process was, I'm gonna ask either Director Arnold or State Bill, can we create a registry and not have to have the certification? Because it seems like that would be a very valuable thing for the city to have. And I'm just curious, what steps can we take without having to invest so much time and energy on the front end?
If I can, I think the first step for the subcommittee is to sit down with city staff so we can share some of the complaints and pictures that we do receive from renters. So you get a first-hand look at what some of our rental properties look at. I think when you see the complaints and things that come to our attention, it will show that the health and safety of our residents is the top priority of the city. And I think getting some type of program in place will only help to improve those conditions. So I would really recommend that the subcommittee meets with myself and Director Arnold so we can have those initial conversations. I like Councilmember Williamson's recommendation on, it's going to be multiple meetings. I don't think we're going to get all of these individuals in one room. Like I said, I think it could be very uncomfortable to have landlords and then renters in the same room and talking about this issue. Some may not be comfortable sharing their concerns and complaints. So I think it's going to take a multitude of meetings. However, having sat in the last round of the meetings, we need to put a time frame to it. No, it's not going to be an overnight thing, but I don't think it needs to be drawn out as long as the last process is. Council, in our last goals, you did put this as a priority to get a rental certification program in place. And I would still hope that this is a priority of the city, especially, I would say that it is a priority of the city, especially seeing some of the complaints and issues that have been brought upon my desk to address with code enforcement and just other property issues.
Do you think 3 months is a feasible time frame to meet with those different?
I think for the initial phase of meeting with the city staff and starting conversations, I think the city manager's point, we have to set some intervals so that we don't let it drag out. So, I mean, I don't know what cannot fit into 3 months, but.
Director Arnold, you feel free to step forward and provide any input.
In my mind, just commenting on the last thing that was discussed, a year seems like we could get a lot of decent, worthwhile public input, not just, oh, we left it open and nobody came, but when we have situations where no one comes, leave some time so where we can circle back and get back to them. I think this is a really important thing. I think it does have to be done carefully. I think that I will just double down. We cannot get just for a simple power dynamic. We cannot get honest feedback from tenants if they're in the presence of landlords at large. There's a landlord association. I don't know that there's a tenant association. And I would also say that there are things that can be done in a rental certification ordinance that go beyond just kind of co-signing onto what we're supposed to be doing code enforcement wise. The fees for the inspections pay for the time for code enforcement. At present, code enforcement isn't under my department, but it's pretty much at capacity in terms of what it can do. And it needs different revenue coming in to pay for us boarding up vacant properties, us taking care of sidewalks of vacant properties, things like that. There's a lot of pictures and historical information for different properties that I think is worth council seeing. I think it's worth tenants and landlords seeing it. If you're looking for tenants to be in those groups that we bring before a subcommittee or on a subcommittee, I'm more than happy to put you in contact with some. I am in support, just so it's totally clear, I am in support of a rental certification ordinance, but I'm willing to, you know, it doesn't just have to be exactly how the city manager and I or Safe Build and I are picturing it right now. I'm willing to put in the work to answer questions that council members have and that landlords have. There's one protection right off the top, requiring that they record with us a lease agreement. There's a lot of problems that I've had to deal with this year that could have been solved by someone having a lease agreement in writing when they didn't. So there's a couple things like that. So having a registry would be important. I don't really have the time to make one. Safe Build won't do one unless we pay them for it. So it's kind of a broad sweep in the last 5 minutes there.
So Director Arnold, correct me if I'm wrong, you're thinking a year is a feasible time frame?
To gather information for the subcommittee to meet and to write and have before council drafts of a potential ordinance if the committee decides we should go with one, yes.
Yeah, is it? Yes, Councilor.
I was on the last, rental association program that, and it really, we wasted a lot of time. And it's, you got to do it in a timely fashion in order for the thing to work. And you had, I agree with Shane too, that you had landlords that were keeping their property up to par, up to the standard, how it was supposed to be. And I didn't see why they should have to be constantly checked out, you know, because if they were, if you checked them out twice and they were doing a good job. And we had a lot of people who rented property that was saying there was things wrong, but they were afraid to say anything because if they did, they might be, you know, their lease broken or them put out of the apartment that they're renting. But I think there's something, if we're going to do it, we need to do it and get it started so that it's not just drag on and on and on. And that's the way it was before, so hopefully. And I think that people should know that they need to report property that's not occupied.
And I think that's what City Manager Snyder was saying, that they have been getting complaints about the structures in which they're living. Yes, Councilman Winston.
I agree with everything that Councilor Marie just said. Again, I would like to add, the last time that rental certification came up before council was also an election year. And it's 2022 and it seems like rental certification is coming up in an election year. And it was a hot political football locally and it was not pretty. And there were people trotting out the residents saying, this person's gonna be homeless and this, you know, the landlord being upset. I think the year is a good timeline because that puts us past the political football and whoever's gonna be sitting in these seats in 2023. But as long as I think it's a good timeline, as long as we're gonna stick to it and get to a point of good comprehensive policy. There are going to be some bombs lobbed during this process. People don't like this type of change. This is really comprehensive change for folks in our city. And it's a good thing if we can get it right. But there's so many people who are upset on either side of this issue when it's decided. And so I think we need to keep that in mind.
So can we agree that this subcommittee will start off with scheduling an appointment to meet with City Manager Snyder, Director Arnold, to kind of build a timeframe, like, you know, within 3 months, this is what we want to do, within 6 months, this is what we want to do, by year's end, this is what we need to accomplish, type of thing. Is that? Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. I was just gonna ask, could Nathan Clark also be there? The code enforcement? Does that make sense?
It does. Actually, Nate Clark, his last day with us is this Friday.
Oh,
We had that position posted for some time now. We have received maybe 2 applicants. It's been posted since November. So we are, I'm working with city staff to kind of figure out what we're going to do with code enforcement in the meantime, because obviously we cannot let that service not be provided. So we are trying to figure out next step with code enforcement.
So is that a good endpoint for this discussion? Anybody need to add anything else? All right, thank you, Dr. All right, do I have a motion to approve the professional engineering services for Haven Road improvements?
So moved.
Support.
Good evening. This is the proposal for Whitman to do the engineering services for the resurface and reshape of Haven Road in 23. The road is largely funded by federal and state funding. There will be a small match from the city of $284,000. But that's not what you're approving. What you're approving is just the engineering scope, which is $59,800. And that's for Whiteman to go through and fully construct this project. As you see in your packet, it lists all the dates when they plan on having each and every item done. This is Haven Road, from South Monroe Street all the way to the eastern city limits.
So from South Monroe?
Yep, just before the bridge.
The federal and state funding is coming through the Albion Small Urban Group, the Transportation Improvement Program. So we're looking at $415,602 to go towards the reconstruction of this roadway.
Now, excuse me. South Monroe is just that corner.
Do you have any questions for either city manager Schneider or Director Miller? And again, this will be in 2023.
Yep.
All right, seeing no questions, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed, Jackson,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, in front of you, you have the applications for Nidia and Holly Zblewski for Income Tax Review Appeal Board. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Are there any questions or comments on the applications? Councilman Williamson?
I just want to note that maybe we might need to update, Clerk Domingo, we might want to update the mail or deliver completed application 2 line. It still has the former mayor as one of the 2 mayors back.
We use their old.
Oh, we use their old application. Okay, got it. Okay, got it.
But we
Sorry.
do have the new ones in the system.
Awesome. I was like, oh, that's a couple years ago.
Yes. Yes.
So I just wanted to remind council, this is the board that I've been emailing the council about on several occasions that we need to get populated because we have a pending appeal that needs to be heard like ASAP. And so we were very fortunate to get at least a quorum to populate this board. So this board has to be populated as soon as possible. We have the appeal that we need to hear immediately.
Any other questions?
Councilmember Reed. Yes. Jackson,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Great, thank you both, Nidia and Holly, for stepping up to serve on this board. Future agenda items. Any items we want to make sure gets on upcoming agenda? All right. Public comments. Do we have anybody on that would like to address council?
Can you hear me?
Floor is yours.
Okay, Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior Street. So just a general comment about populating the board. So I know that that's something that, well, kind of two parts to this comment. That's been an ongoing issue in Albion, especially because we've had kind of an indigent issue, right? People are low income, and in certain cases, whether elected officials or other people who are prospective board members might owe income or property taxes. And I know that Council Member or Mayor Pro Tem Jackson has mentioned that. That's been mentioned in previous council meetings about the city may be doing something about that even if it amounted to proposing some kind of change to the charter, because I think that's going to be a ongoing issue. And then the other thing in particular to tonight's two appointments. So I'm familiar with the Board of Review, which normally handles issues around property taxes, right? And appeals for that. So the income tax review board, that is there, but there is a clause in there that describes, that says that the members of the board shall be appointed on the basis of their knowledge or experience in taxation, accounting, or finance. And the applications weren't included in the packet. So I don't know if that's the case. So I would hope that the council would check with the attorney, and hopefully he reviewed this before it was submitted to you, to see that those applicants meet those requirements that are expressed. So and that's not a requirement for the regular Board of Review for property taxes. So just those two items. One, hopefully you all can look at ways to deal with the backlog from a systematic standpoint of like how we can do that in Albion with the kind of poverty issues that we have. And then two, council, hopefully you can ask the attorney and make sure that those appointments are meeting those basic requirements that are outlined in the, at least in the code. So thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Floor is yours, Councilman Muller.
I just wanted to tell the council, thank you for bearing with me during this time in my life. Hopefully I can get some things resolved by the next meeting or next study session. So I'm just saying thank you for bearing with me.
Thank you. Hope you're staying safe. City Manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A copy of my report was included in the packet. I'm just wanting to update Greenview billing. My office experienced the same calls with concerns from residents about the same time last year. So I just want to reiterate the billing, you are not being charged extra for the yardways. Under the new contract, the fee is equally spread out over 12 months to provide a more consistent billing. So please, if you get any questions or concerns from any constituents, please reiterate to them that they are not being charged extra for yard waste collection. And to remind them of, there have been many additional services added under the new contract: the unlimited yard waste collection, the blue bag recycling, and the monthly bulk item collection. So I just wanted to make that announcement. It's not an increase for yard waste, but it's just to provide more consistent billing throughout the year. We have a tentative 2022 citywide cleanup scheduled for Saturday, June 25th. So please stay tuned for more information to come. We are looking to hold it at the same locations as previous years at Ketchum Field and Harris Field. But like I said, please stay tuned. We will have more information as we approach that time of the year. I'm happy to share that the city received an eligibility letter from the USDA-RD for the city's wastewater treatment plant improvement application. As you can recall, we submitted an application for a roughly $16 million worth of improvements to our wastewater treatment plant. So now we're just waiting to receive that official approval documentation from the USDA. I can say that preliminary engineer work has already begun. They're kind of underway with this project. So that is great news for the city. Myself, Assistant City Manager Ridge and Chief Pip, we had the opportunity to meet with college intern President Joe Calvaruso on Thursday, January 6th. It was nice to kind of sit down and just discuss where the college is at and steps moving forward. I've been looking forward to working with Mr. Calvaruso as we move forward. Director Miller and I met with a few members from Whiteman Associates on January 13th to identify potential projects to pursue bridge funding through MDOT's local bridge program. If you all recall, we received grant funding to completely redo the North Albion Street Bridge. Through this meeting, we did identify several projects. They are preventative maintenance projects, so we do not end in the situation like we are with the North Albion Street Bridge. So we are looking to submit applications for the East Erie, South Canada, East Cass, North Clinton, and North Eaton Street Bridge. The applications are due April 2022 for fiscal year 2025 funding. Yes.
Quick question. Do you have a start date for the Albion Street Bridge?
That's not until next year, 2023. However, they are starting doing some preliminary work on that, but the actual construction will not take place until next year.
Perfect, thank you.
MME Winter Institute, just would like to remind you all that myself and Assistant City Manager Ridge, we will be attending the Michigan Municipal Executives Winter Institute in Troy, Michigan from January 25th through the 28th. So we will be out of office during that time. Would just like to make an announcement with the spike of COVID cases in Calhoun County, especially in our community. Our front lobby is open to the public Monday through Friday there's an error. It should be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I apologize, I haven't talked about it, says 10 a.m. But we are open to the public from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We encourage our residents to please utilize the front drop box, no cash payments, and the online payment options for property tax, utility billing, payments. Residents can call anytime during regular business hours. We are still working Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but we are just trying to stop the spread and protect the residents and the city staff. With that, until further notice, city council meetings will revert back to the hybrid style, where city council meets in person and the public joins strictly via Zoom. You can find the Zoom links on the front page of the city website. So you just have to click it and you will join the meeting. In the upcoming study sessions, we have a few scheduled. The study session to discuss recreational marijuana sales will be held on Monday, February 7th at 6 p.m. Attorney Harkness did email out a link to a video, and we encourage all of you to watch that video, come prepared with any questions, feedback that you would like to share. So that will be held on February 7th. And then the follow-up half-day work session with the MML coach has been scheduled for Saturday, February 5th from 8 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. And then you will also see that there are also updates from the departments included as well. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for our city manager? Thank you for the report. I do appreciate the department reports as well. Good information. Council member comments. Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the city manager for her report and any of those updates that you might have put on here. Can you just resend it? Because I'm going to send it out to our precincts so that they have this information. Thank you.
Any other council member comments? Attorney Harkness?
So I just want the council to be clear on something, because a suggestion was made again tonight during public comments that the council has the authority to amend our charter to say that people who are in default to the city can serve on boards and commissions. They can't. The city does not have that authority, and let me tell you why. The Michigan Home Rule City Act specifically has a section that says prohibited powers. And in that section, it says the city does not have the authority to make a contract with or give an official position to someone who is in default with the city. So I don't want the council to become confused and think that you have that authority to change the charter. You don't, because it's prohibited by state law. So I know it would be nice to be able to do that, but we can't. So I just wanted to be clear on that.
Any other council comments? Councilman Lanier.
Thank you, Attorney Harkness. With regard to the other public comment regarding the knowledge of taxation, was that something else? Did you hear the other comments that the,
I did hear it, but I'm not involved in the vetting of the individuals who are put forward for boards and commissions. That's something that the mayor puts forth the nominations, and then the department heads do the backgrounds on them to make sure that they can hold the office. So I wasn't involved in that.
okay, thank you.
Any other comments? All right. Motion to excuse Councilwoman Raleigh.
Support.
City Clerk Wright.
Councilmember Reed. Jackson,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yeah,
Williamson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
City Clerk Wright.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lanu,
yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion adjourned, 7:52 PM.